Amos. He was a sheep herder, was he not?
Yeah.
Okay, in a small village.
Yeah.
So how did God come about asking him to go to the people because the people had strayed, to get him back on track?
Well, that's something we discussed, I think, the first or second lesson, which was why would God call like a small town sheep herder to go to this big, powerful nation to the north and speak to them? And we were talking about how it's probably related to the fact that God uses what the world considers weak and foolish in order to shame those who consider themselves proud, and who are proud and consider themselves strong and wise. And so he's flipping human expectations on their head in order to point to people that God is the one who has the power. We are not the ones who have the power or the wisdom.
That's one way of punishing them.
But it's not a way of punishing them. It's kind of showing them or proving to them that they should not rely upon their own ways and their own thoughts and their own wisdom, but they should rely on God's instead. And so that's speculation. It doesn't say that explicitly, but it seems to be consistent with what we see in the rest of Scripture. Okay, so now we come to the crimes. It says, because they. So God explicitly gives the reason or reasons for the punishment that will not be stopped. And so on your back, I know that inside the table, it's in Hebrew. I wasn't going to print this out for you guys, but I just threw it on there because maybe you could think of it as check marks. You could see that there's commonality between. No, sorry. This isn't the crimes. This is the punishments. Never mind. We'll get to that later. But the crimes is, so first of all, the crime against Aram, because they threshed Gilead, the crime of Aram, because they threshed Gilead with iron sledges. And this is almost certainly a reference to the period when Aram was oppressing Israel, remember, from about 840 to 800, before Amos's time, when Aram basically cut off large parts of Israel and subjugated them and oppressed them and committed atrocities against them. This is almost certainly referring to that period. And it says, they threshed Gilead with iron sledges. And what that means is when they would harvest the grain, they'd take it to the threshing floor, which is like a broad, flat piece, probably like maybe with bricks or something. And so they would crush the grain in order to separate the kernel from the chaff. And one way they would often do this is they'd take like a wooden board with stones inside of it, or maybe even pieces of iron or metal, and they would drag it across the grain in order to do that, to split the kernel from the chaff. And so it's using this imagery to say that Aram basically took these iron boards, iron, sharp pieces in it, and dragged it across the people of the land in Gilead. And it's this violent image, this kind of explicit imagery that tries to capture the severity of what Aram did to the people of Israel in the region of Gilead. And then we have the Philistines. So again, I'm just going from nation to nation. We're not going verse by verse. So the crime of the Philistines is because they sent a whole people into exile, handing them over to Edom. Now, this is probably referring to